You drag yourself out of bed, legs stiff and back tight from yesterday's workout. You sip your pre-workout drink. You lace up your running shoes. You look at your reflection in the dark glass of the gym door and think, okay, time to do this. The entire idea is woven into your life. Exercise is medicine. A chore, maybe, but a non-negotiable one. It is the baseline condition for a healthy body. We treat movement like a prescription, something we must consciously add to our day to counteract the damage of our modern lives. It is a modern article of faith. The human body needs exercise. But for 99.9% of human history, the idea would have been utterly, profoundly absurd. It would be like telling a man dying of thirst that he needs to remember to drink water. It would be like warning a person freezing to death to be careful of the cold. To every single one of your ancestors, for hundreds of thousands of years, the notion of needing exercise would have been incomprehensible, not because they were healthier than you, not because they had better genetics, but because the fundamental equation of their existence was reversed. Your life is defined by the effort to get movement. Their lives were defined by the desperate, constant need to conserve it. Energy was the ultimate currency, and every single calorie was a precious coin to be spent only on survival. To waste it on purposeless motion? It would be like lighting your last match to watch it burn. This is the core of the paradox. We look back at ancient skeletons, strong, robust, showing clear signs of powerful daily labor, and we assume they were exercising. We see them as prehistoric athletes. But that is our modern lens, a profound misunderstanding. They weren't training, they weren't working out, they were surviving. And in that survival, they were navigating a razor's edge between two equally deadly fates. On one side, starvation from expending too much energy. On the other, becoming prey from not being strong or fast enough to fight or flee. Your existence today is the product of every one of your ancestors, walking that exact razor's edge and not falling off. If even one had tipped too far in either direction, if one had wasted their energy on unnecessary motion and starved, or if one had grown too weak to escape a predator, you would not be here, reading these words. This is an abstract history. This is the story of why your body looks at a treadmill and sees a bizarre, modern contraption. So let's step away from the gym lights and the fitness trackers. Let's go back to the real baseline condition of the human animal. Not for a few thousand years of agriculture, but for the over 200,000 years of our species, Homo sapiens, and the millions of years of the hominids that came before us. This was the long childhood of humanity, a period so vast it makes all of recorded history look like the last few seconds of a cosmic clock. Picture the world your body was designed for. It is not a world of comfort. It is a world of lack. You wake up cold because the fire has burned down to embers. The first thought is not about macros or reps. It is a hollow, gnawing ache in your gut. You are already hungry. You were hungry when you went to sleep. You are always, subtly hungry. Your belly is not a thing you fill. It is a companion that murmurs constantly, a gauge that almost never reads full. You look at your children, your partner, the other members of your small band. Their faces are lean. You can see the definition in their forearms, the lines of their cheeks, not from a cutting diet, but from the constant, gentle tax of existence. Your feet are tough and splayed from a lifetime barefoot on hard ground. Your hands are scarred. Your grip is a vice from daily use, not from deadlifts. There is no concept of strength training. There is only the reality that if you cannot grip this branch, you fall. If you cannot dig this root, you eat nothing. If you cannot throw this spear with enough force, you go to bed with only berries. Your entire day is a single, integrated physics problem. Acquire more calories than you burn. That's it. Every decision filters through this. Do I take the longer route to the water source where predators might lurk? Is that patch of grasses worth a half-day walk? Is that herd of antelope too fast, too alert? The calculus is brutal and immediate. Failure means pain. Catastrophic failure means death. And into this world, I want you to insert our modern idea of exercise. Imagine explaining it to one of your ancestors. You tell them that after a day of walking 15 kilometers foraging, after hauling water and wood, after processing tough roots with stones, you plan to run in place on a smooth, springy path for no reason, or that you will lift heavy rocks off the ground and put them down again repeatedly until your muscles burn, or that you will contort your body into strange positions and hold them to become more flexible. They would stare at you as if you had announced you were going to paint the sky. It's not just unnecessary, it is actively, dangerously insane. In their world, Burning energy without a direct, high-probability caloric payoff is a form of self-sabotage. It is gambling with your family's survival. That burn in your muscles? To them, that is the feeling of precious stored energy, energy that could have been used to heal a wound, to fight an infection, to keep a child warm, being converted into useless heat and sweat and thrown into the air. This is the first pillar of understanding. Movement was not a supplement. It was the entire job. There was no separation between life and activity. The hunt was the cardio. The butchering was the strength training. The migration was the endurance event. The physical challenge was baked into the obtaining of food itself. You didn't go for a run. You ran because you were chasing dinner or fleeing something that thought you were dinner. The reward and the exertion were the same event. And this leads us to the second, more subtle pillar. Intensity was dictated by crisis, not by a schedule. Your ancient body did not experience steady state, moderate exercise. It knew extremes. Long periods of low-intensity movement, walking, foraging, scraping hides, punctuated by sudden, explosive, life-or-death bursts of maximum effort. A sprint from a predator, a frantic climb up a tree, a violent struggle with an injured animal, a desperate search for shelter in a storm. Your cardiovascular system, your muscles, your adrenaline response. They were forged in these moments of peak crisis. They were not prepared for 45 minutes at a steady 150 heart rate. They were built to go from resting to absolute redline in seconds, and then to recover, because the next threat could be minutes away. This pattern left a deep imprint on your biology, one that modern exercise science is only beginning to decode. But here is where the story twists, and where the real mystery begins. Because if our ancestors were getting all this natural exercise through sheer survival, we'd expect their bodies to show it. And they do, but not in the way you might think. The archaeological record reveals a startling fact. These people were not just active. They were durable in a way that modern elite athletes might envy. And yet they achieved this without a single thought toward fitness. Their secret wasn't just more movement. It was something built into the very rhythm of their lives. A hidden physiological rhythm that our modern world has completely erased. And to find it, researchers didn't look at bones or tools. They looked at the empty spaces in between. But those empty spaces hold a clue that changes everything. Because your ancestors weren't moving constantly, they couldn't afford to. The real skill wasn't just exertion. It was the profound, instinctive mastery of rest. Picture that lean hunter back at camp after a pursuit that didn't end in a kill. He isn't pacing, anxious about burning calories. He is utterly, completely still. He is sitting, maybe lying, his breathing slow, his gaze distant. To your eyes, he looks lazy. In his world, he is conducting essential maintenance. He is banking every single calorie his body isn't using for motion and directing it toward repair, toward immune function, toward brain function. This isn't laziness. This is a high-stakes energy management strategy, and his life depended on getting it right. Here is the counterintuitive twist that flips our modern idea of fitness on its head. The ancient body's supreme fitness was a product not of constant motion, but of a violent, rhythmic dance between extreme exertion and profound, purposeful rest. They weren't avoiding rest. They were experts at it. Our modern tragedy is that we've lost the rest part of the equation, while also stripping the exertion of its purpose. We have the worst of both worlds: constant, low-grade physical stress from unnatural postures and chronic inactivity, punctuated by bouts of purposeless, intense strain that our brain interprets as a bizarre kind of self-inflicted crisis. And our bodies are screaming in confusion. Think about that burn in your muscles during a hard set at the gym. To you, it's the burn, a sign of progress. To your ancient physiology, that burn is a chemical alarm siren. It's the same signal that would have screamed through your ancestor's body. During a desperate sprint from a lion, the body dumps cortisol and adrenaline into the bloodstream. It shuts down digestion and long-term repair. It prepares tissues for potential injury. It assumes something is trying to kill you, and you are spending your last reserves to escape. Now, in the ancient world, that alarm had a clear resolution. You escaped the lion. You made it to safety. The adrenaline faded. The cortisol levels dropped. And then, crucially, you entered a state of true, deep recovery. You slept. You lay still for hours. Your body received the all-clear signal. The crisis is over. The energy spent was worth it. You lived. Repair mechanisms switched into overdrive. But in your modern world, what happens after the gym alarm? You don't collapse in a safe cave. You get in your car, stuck in traffic. your stress hormones still swirling. You check work emails on your phone, triggering a whole new cascade of psychological stress. You maybe eat a hurried, processed meal that demands energy to digest, but doesn't provide the right materials for repair. Your body never gets the all clear. It's stuck in a confusing, low-grade alert state, wondering when the next pointless, life-threatening sprint is coming. The exertion is divorced from the survival outcome, and so the recovery is never fully sanctioned. This is why you can feel both tired and wired, why you can work out consistently but still get sick, still feel perpetually inflamed, still hold on to stubborn weight. Your body is treating your workout like a survived attack, but it's waiting for the peace that never comes. So how do we know this dance of crisis and rest was real? How do we prove that ancient bodies lived in this rhythm and that it's coded into us? The evidence isn't in grand monuments. It's in the subtle, brutal details of their bones and the quiet logic of their campsites. First, look at the fractures. Studies of prehistoric hunter-gatherer skeletons show something fascinating: a high incidence of healed fractures, especially in the upper body, arms, ribs, collarbones. These aren't the weak, porous breaks of the frail. These are the healed injuries of the robust, the kind you get from a high-impact fall or a violent encounter. The critical point is that they healed, and they healed well. These people had the physiological resilience to recover from massive trauma. That resilience doesn't come from constant, grinding exertion. It comes from a system that could pivot all its resources, energy, hormones, immune function, toward repair when it was needed. Their bodies were masters of the rebound, because their lives demanded it. Second, consider the campsite. Archaeologists at sites like Sibudu Cave in South Africa have found evidence of bedding from 77,000 years ago, layers of aromatic grasses and leaves that were regularly replaced and even burned to control pests. This wasn't just a place to pass out. This was a crafted environment for high-quality rest. They understood, at a bone-deep level, that survival wasn't just about the hunt. It was about what happened in the quiet hours afterward. The camp was a sanctuary for recovery, a deliberate space where the energy conservation mode could be fully activated. Third, and most telling, is the evidence from what they didn't do. Analysis of fossilized footprints and stride patterns suggests that while they walked long distances, they rarely jogged. Consistent, moderate-paced running is incredibly calorically expensive for a relatively low yield. It's the worst kind of movement for an energy conservationist. The fossil record implies they walked to the point of action, and then they exploded. Their movement pattern was a stark binary: conserve, 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 then unleash everything. This is the exact pattern that modern high-intensity interval training tries, clumsily, to mimic. Our ancestors didn't mimic it. They lived it, because the world enforced it. Finally, look at the bodies of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies, like the Hadza of Tanzania. Researchers who study them note their phenomenal cardiometabolic health, their strength, their lean body composition. But they also clock their actual activity. They are active for 4 to 6 hours a day, yes, but much of that is low-level tasks. And they sit a lot. But this sitting isn't the slumped, spine-curving sit of an office chair. It's often in deep squatting positions or on the ground, positions that maintain mobility and muscle engagement even at rest. Their rest is still active. Their downtime is still physically intelligent. It's never the complete, paralytic shutdown of modern sedentary life. All of this evidence paints a new picture of the baseline human condition. It wasn't a nonstop workout. It was a brilliant, brutal oscillation. Periods of gentle, purposeful movement, underlaid by a deep, energy-hoarding calm. Then, a seismic eruption of total system effort, triggered by a real, tangible threat or opportunity. And then, the immediate and total retreat into a state of sanctioned, prioritized recovery. Your body is not a machine that needs more fuel. It is a brilliant, ancient economist that expects a certain rhythm of deposits and withdrawals. Right now, it's getting random, nonsensical withdrawals. The stress of a deadline, the frantic burn of a spin class, the weird pressure of sitting all day, with no clear, life-affirming deposits to justify them. And the deposits of rest you do try to make are shallow, broken by blue light and anxiety, never convincing the inner economist that the crisis is truly over. This is the core of the disconnect. When you stare at the gym door, feeling that mix of obligation and dread, you're not just being lazy. You are a phenomenally sophisticated energy management system, evolved over millions of years, looking at a pointless caloric expense, and instinctively, rightly, questioning it. Your body is asking the ancient, vital question, what is this for? And until you can answer that question in a way that satisfies not just your modern mind, but your ancient physiology, the resistance will remain. The good news is, the answer isn't to abandon movement. It's to reconnect it to something real, and to relearn the lost art of true, sanctioned rest. Because the secret to the strength etched in those ancient bones wasn't just the chase. It was the profound, quiet peace that always came after. So what do you do with this? You are not going to abandon your running shoes. You are not going to cancel your gym membership. That's not the point. The point is to understand the ghost in the machine, the ancient accountant staring in confusion at your life's ledger. Because now you can feel it, can't you? That subtle, background hum of wrongness. It's in the way you can be physically exhausted but still lie awake at night, your mind racing. It's in the soreness that lingers for days, as if your body has forgotten how to clean up the mess. It's in the dread that sometimes accompanies the very thought of exercise, a deep, visceral pull away from the expenditure. That's not a moral failing. That's your inheritance whispering. It's the echo of the oldest question. What is this for? The modern answer, asterisk for health, for longevity, for aesthetics asterisk, is a concept written in a language your body does not fully speak. It understands survival. It understands purpose. It understands immediate, tangible cause and effect. So the bridge between your world and its world isn't found in pushing harder. It's found in reshaping the story around the effort. And, more importantly, what comes after. Start with the exertion. The goal is not to mimic the exact movements of a hunter-gatherer. It's to mimic the psychophysical signature of their crises. Remember the binary. Conserve, then unleash everything. This means your most potent, body-altering workouts might be shockingly brief. It's not the 45-minute steady-state jog that your ancient physiology sees as a puzzling, wasteful trek. It's the 5 minutes of all-out sprints. The few sets of lifting something truly heavy until you can't. The burst of effort that leaves you gasping and spent. That, your body understands. That pattern is written into your DNA as life or death event. It triggers the full, ancient cascade of adaptation. The hormone release, the muscle repair signaling, the cardiovascular upgrade. Because your body assumes you just did something that mattered. But here is the non-negotiable. The part we have utterly lost. The sanctioned rest. This is the key. The adaptation doesn't happen during the sprint. It happens after, in the peace. Your ancestor didn't finish a kill and then scroll through messages. They collapsed. They feasted. They slept deeply beside their people. The danger passed. So after your modern crisis, that short, intense burst, you must consciously, deliberately create the all clear. This is the sacred part. For the next hour, you do not trigger new stress. You don't jump into a stressful work call. You don't doom scroll. You might eat simply and well. You might walk slowly. You might just sit, really sit, and let your heartbeat return to baseline, not just physically, but mentally. You are sending the signal. The crisis is over. We survived. We are safe. Now, repair. This changes everything about rest days. A rest day is not a day of guilty laziness. It is the point of the exertion. It is the sanctioned recovery phase, where your inner economist says, the expenditure was justified. Now we rebuild. True rest becomes as purposeful as the lift. It is the other half of the dance. Now, bring this down into your body, right now, in this moment. Feel the surface you're sitting or lying on. Your ancestor never sat in a chair that cradled their pelvis into immobility. They squatted. They sat cross-legged on the ground. They perched on logs. These positions kept their hips mobile, their cores engaged, their bodies in a state of gentle, active readiness even at rest. You can reclaim fragments of this without turning your living room into a campsite. For every hour you sit, spend 5 minutes on the floor. Sit in a deep squat. Hold it until you feel it, then sit cross-legged. Just be down there. Let your body remember a geometry older than furniture. And finally, the most profound shift. Reconnect movement to a purpose beyond the mirror or the medical chart. This doesn't mean you need to start hunting. It means you can weave purpose back in. Carry your groceries instead of using the cart. Walk to the coffee shop instead of driving. Choose the stairs. In these tiny acts, you are closing the loop. The movement is for something. The energy spent delivers an immediate, tangible result. You are here, with your coffee, having earned it, with the motion of your own body. Your brain's reward system and your body's energy system shake hands, recognizing each other for the first time in a long time. When you do go to the gym, frame it in your mind not as burning calories, but as practicing for a crisis that never comes. You are maintaining the toolkit. You are oiling the response system. You are keeping the sprint in your legs, the climb in your arms, the throw in your shoulder. Not because you will need them tomorrow, but because having them ready is what it means, on a cellular level, to be alive. You are speaking to your body in a language it was built to understand. Readiness, then repair. The quiet miracle is this: your body wants to be strong. It wants to be resilient. It is begging for the rhythm it was designed for, not the sterile, separate cycle of workout and collapse, but the integrated pulse of purposeful challenge and sanctioned peace. When you give it that, something unlocks. The inflammation quiets. Sleep deepens. The stubborn weight might shift, not because you're fighting your metabolism, but because you've stopped confusing it. The energy you chase returns to you, not as a frantic buzz, but as a steady, available current. You stand there at the gym door, your hand on the cold metal handle. The dread you sometimes feel is not laziness. It is the wisdom of 2 million years, looking at a pointless tax and asking, what for? Now you have an answer. You are not just exercising. You are practicing the ancient, vital dance. You are creating a crisis worth having, so you can then give yourself the profound peace that always must follow. So go in, lift the heavy thing, run the fast sprint, but then honor the other half of the bargain with a fierceness you once reserved for the effort itself. Sit on the floor. Watch the light change. Be still. Let the all-clear signal flood your cells. Because the strongest thing your ancestors ever built wasn't the muscle that threw the spear. It was the profound, unshakable calm that knew the spear had found its mark, and for now, the hunt was over.